Progressive press decides that dissenters should be suppressed. This is the editorial in the Wall Street Journal this weekend. Many calls to sanction opposition media come from voices that claim to be most alarmed by Donald Trump's attacks on the free press. Margaret Sullivan, the Washington Post media columnist, wrote this week, quote, "Corporations that advertise on Fox News should walk away," declaring that the outlet's, quote, role in the 400,000 U.S. lives lost to the pandemic and in the disastrous attack of January 6th has been deadly. So this is the Washington Post has called for a boycott by advertisers of the Fox News because of the role that it played in the 400,000 U.S. lives lost. What is the role that that Fox News played in 400,000 lives lost? Do you know what she's talking about? How about the role played by the left-wing press in suppressing all of the knowledge we have about hydroxychloroquine, zinc, and ivermectin? The Washington Post and the New York Times and the whole left-wing media, they have played a much more provable role in American death in COVID than Fox News. And they played a role in January 6th. So did the left-wing press play a role in 6 months of Antifa and BLM riots? No, of course not. So this is what's called mainstream press. Remember, this is an editorial by the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal. These are not flamethrowers. The flamethrowers are at the Washington Post. They continue. Nicholas Kristof of the New York Times called for, quote, pressure on advertisers to withdraw from Fox News so long as it functions as an extremist madrasa. Madrasa is Arabic for school. And the use of it is generally about schools that teach Islamist extremism and terror. Okay? This is Nicholas Kristof, who's not even the most far left of the New York Times, completely left with one or two exceptions out of 50. And they're all Trump haters, so that's important. There was not one columnist who, in the New York Times, I don't think there was one article defending the president for 4 years. Anyway, Nicholas Kristof also, he compares Fox News. This is their fight. There should not be any non-left-wing source of information in this country. Get it? That is because, as I wrote, and this is very important, there is no example in the history of the world of the left being in power and not suppressing dissent. Dissent is to the left what kryptonite is to Superman. Even a little bit, and it's over. That's why they don't want us to speak on college campuses. In 1 hour, they are afraid we can undo the 4 years of lies and indoctrination that are called a college education. These are incredible things now. The attempt to get rid of Fox News, like they got rid of Parler. We can't even make an alternate source of information, of opinion. It all has to be left-wing or we suppress you. That's why I divide between leftists and liberals. Liberals believed in free speech. Now they don't give a damn about it because they think their enemy is us, not the left. Nicholas Kristof of the New York Times added, cable providers should be asked why they distribute channels that peddle lies. The generalizations they talk about if you read any of my columns, I back up every generalization with a fact, every single one. They never do. Never. It's an unbelievable thing. How did she, Margaret Sullivan of the Washington Post, how does she, give me evidence that the role that, specific evidence, the role that Fox News played in 400,000 COVID deaths. Your paper played a role, as I said just before, in suppressing news about hydroxychloroquine and zinc and ivermectin. A CNN writer asserted that providers like Comcast, quote, have escaped scrutiny and entirely dodged this conversation, unquote. By conversation, he means political bullying from the left. Thomas Friedman in the New York Times. Thomas Friedman should write a book. He's written a lot of books. He should really write one on the thing that he is truly a master of, self-esteem. If Thomas Friedman wrote a book on self-esteem, I would buy it. That is his single greatest virtue. By the way, I have a standing invitation. Thomas Friedman, I will respectfully dialogue with you anytime. I had a dialogue with your colleague Bret Stephens on the New York Times Facebook account. Bret Stephens wrote a piece on me. I wrote a piece on Bret Stephens. So you could ask Bret Stephens if I am worthy of having a dialogue with you. My friends, you will sooner visit Mars than Thomas Friedman would come on this show. Thomas Friedman in the New York Times also called for a business boycott of some Fox News shows and announced that Facebook needs to, quote, surprise us by once and for all stopping the elevation for profit of news that divides and enrages over more authoritative, even-handed news sources. What does that mean? So in other words, Facebook, you should be suppressing conservative voices even more than you now do. This is from Tom Friedman, who's considered a liberal at the New York Times. He's closer to fascism than he is to liberalism. I'm not calling him a fascist. I don't believe he is. I am telling you, though, that he is closer to it than he is to liberal. Censor dissent is closer to fascism than liberalism. Is that fair to say? Only non-divisive sources will be allowed, such as those that compare popular media outlets to an extremist madrasa. A former Facebook executive was more straightforward when he said on CNN, we have to turn down the capability of these conservative influencers to reach huge audiences. They're direct. Censor conservatives. First time in American history.